Coming to you from that once-forgotten artery that pulses through the center of the continental United States and into the heart of the Ozarks, Grace Matthews. Looking in from the northern border, our Canadian friend, along with his countrymen feeling the effects of U.S. political issues, Connor Murphy.
Welcome to Dueling Dialogues, Episode 209. I'm Connor Murphy, here with Grace Matthews in the Hammer in Springfield, Missouri. Hey, you two, how you doing?
Hello, we're okay.
Yeah, what's
safe.
happening up there?
Pretty much the same thing that's happening down there. Nothing.
Yes, nothing.
Yeah, it's we've seen a little more traffic this last weekend, but it's still really weird.
Yeah.
It's a little crazy. I mean, we're in week number 3
Yeah.
here of, staying home. I didn't want to use the quarantine because it feels like we're quarantined, but technically we're part of a stay-at-home order. It's really strange because I think it's starting to get to people. I'm hearing the people on the news start talking about the mental consequences of people. Imagine, when you live in a big, you can't go outside. You're living in maybe a studio apartment by yourself. You have a sofa, possibly, or a bed.
Yeah. Or no pets.
Yeah, no pets. You can't really go outside and walk around. You're sharing air with very toxic air with other people in a park. That's what I've heard a lot of people in New York talk about because it is so infested. So worldwide, we have hit over 2 million cases.
Wow.
We have about 200,000 deaths. In the United States, we went well over 500,000 cases. And
wow.
In Missouri, we are well over 3,000. What is interesting is we're shut down kind of early, before the state and before Trump made it, for the entire country, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so our health department says that 30% of the cases that they are treating came from elsewhere. They say that 80% of the cases in Missouri came from elsewhere.
Right.
Statistically, that's crazy.
Well, they didn't shut down air traffic, so it makes sense.
Right.
But we don't have any big, huge airports except, Kansas City and St. Louis, and they're not what you would call huge, like a Dallas or Chicago.
But if one person has it and gets on a plane, chances are everybody on that plane, or damn near everybody, is going to get it.
Well, that's true because we do have lots of people that travel during the winter to get away from here because of the weather.
Us too.
So they go anywhere.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's going on 5 weeks for me because I flew just before this happened, so I self-quarantined for 2 weeks beforehand. So it's a bit long for me. I just wish that the people that are sick stay home and the rest of us can continue on with our lives.
Exactly. You get out too and walk, right?
Yeah, I take the dog out.
Yeah, that's what we do. We walk the dog, and that's really about it. Because at first we were going to the grocery store. I will tell you that we did that delivery thing. You want to tell about that? No, not delivery. Walmart.
Right.
What a nightmare.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, we did it to pick up at 5 o'clock.
Right.
So we get there. They said between 5 and 6.
And we set the appointment 2 days in advance.
Oh yeah. And so we get there after 5, thinking, hey, we're early. We'll get in and out of here. First of all, we can't find a parking spot to pull into where you pick it up. Then we had the pleasure of sitting in their parking lot for 2 hours waiting for our order.
Oh my.
Our 5 o'clock order, we got at about 5 till 7.
Yeah.
So you can't go into the store there?
We could, but they're limiting.
Yeah. There's lineups here, but the lineups go relatively fast. The majority of the shoppers seem to get in and grab what they need and get out fairly quick.
And that's what we did until this last week when they said, don't go grocery shopping. Right. And we were about to run out of coffee. Now, let me tell you.
Yeah, that's not good. That wouldn't fly over here either.
Crisis.
That would be, that might get us in a mental institution or something. So, no. Yeah. Okay, so, by all, I think it would be hard to say that Trump's healthcare task force hasn't made a huge impact. This could have been much worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's bad. It's not near as bad as we thought. We are hearing people say, well, maybe he did too much. It's not as bad as he thought, so he got us all alarmed for nothing. No, what they did worked.
Right.
Just think if he hadn't have shut down China and had all the people from China flying over here, the businessmen and stuff that would have been carrying the virus and transporting it to all areas, it would have been just devastating to our country.
I still believe that there are planes flying into Canada from China.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, good grief. Good grief. That's scary. That's scary.
And especially like Vancouver, there's probably 50% of the population is Chinese. So that's millions.
We have a surprisingly high Asian population in Springfield. And part of it is we have a program at MSU with several institutions in China. So we have a big population of foreign students that are studying here from China. We also have a lot of South Koreans and Vietnamese.
Right.
We have close to 20% of our population now is Asian, which is a great deal more than African American.
Right.
And Hispanic. We only have about 5-6%.
Yes.
Of African American.
Yeah.
Probably about the same. Hispanic, I don't know. Hispanic's probably a little lower.
It's lower.
So we have an incredibly high for the Asian population. So I think that was another thing that got us shut down early here in Greene County. So, but anyway, this is work. I don't know how we're going to get back without creating another situation. I don't know. Because it's still going to be out there.
Some doctors and scientists are saying that if we flatten the curve, we're basically just lengthening the time that the virus would have been around. And if we would have just let it naturally propagate through the population, we would have been through this well before now.
Yeah. And I think that's true. What we wanted to avoid, and I think they knew that, what we wanted to avoid was a rush on the hospitals.
Right.
And the supply chain, and we did not want to do what they've had to do in Italy, which is decide who lives and dies.
Yeah, exactly.
Americans that get really squeamish about that. We've talked about that a lot. But anyway, the healthcare task force has done a great job.
Yep.
So Trump is now naming an economic task force.
Okay.
He said it will be very similar to the health task force. At some point, we got to go back to work.
Right.
My guess is, or my question is, who's going to be on that team? I have not heard yet, and my hope is that Trump and Gary Cohn have kind of smoothed things over, and Gary Cohn could lead this committee. As far as financial gurus go in the United States, there's nobody better.
Right.
They've got to have a plan to jumpstart the economy without putting everybody in danger, and it's going to have to be a very well organized plan, and it's going to have to be thought out very safely with all the different areas, because you're going to have some areas that are going to be more susceptible to the virus than there are other areas. The ones that are less populated, it'd be a lot easier for them to go back to work.
And you've got situations like that where you've got things right now like, okay, you have necessities. Okay, for example, food is a necessity. However, today they had to shut down the Smith Whitfield plant because 235 people got coronavirus.
Oh.
They processed ham and bacon, I guess.
And sausage, yes.
And sausage. So they were able to stay working because they are a necessity. However, they can't because the virus started roaming through the plant.
Right.
So you're going to have little pockets of problems.
Yeah, and certain industries are actually doing better now than they were before. I mean, 2 months ago, if you had a plastic store, you would have been worried about your survival with, banning plastic straws and everything
Absolutely.
like that. And right now, you can't get enough supply to make all those sneeze guards for, the public.
Exactly. And there's still a problem with PPE. So now we have more masks hitting the market, and now we're out of gowns.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you. I'll tell you this. This morning when I first went outside, I could smell the mill just cranking out the pulp. So it's on its way. The raw products. They've been going around the clock here. We make grade A pulp in this town. And by the smell of the mill this morning, they're working hard at it.
Yeah. And the United States stimulus checks started hitting on Friday. It's amazing that the IRS is in charge of this, that they could do anything that quickly.
Right.
They said that most of them should be out by April 15th. Now, they have your information, they're doing a direct deposit. That would be $1,200 for individuals, $2,400 for couples under
$195,000.
Under $195,000 for a couple, and $500 per child.
Wow.
They did say today that if you are on Social Security, you need to get onto the site, the IRS site, and put your bank information in there. If you are on disability and you have children, you need to get on and register your children.
Okay.
Like underage children.
Right. We got a little stimulus check this week. Not nearly that amount, but it helped.
Absolutely. Anything helps because we need to create spending.
What about businesses? Is there any relief for businesses? Because they're being shut, they've got no revenue at all.
Yeah. Here, as insofar as payroll, rent, and utilities, you can go to the bank for a loan if you have under 500 employees. Okay, now that loan will be forgiven if you keep your employees on the payroll and they are not filing for unemployment.
Oh, great.
Now, a lot of that money has already been spoken for. They are supposed to extend it. Nancy Pelosi is trying to blackmail over it, as she always does. So get there before April 17th. They believe the money will run out or will already be promised by April 17th.
Okay.
Yeah, the Black Widow, she can't let anything that's good happen to the country. She's got to have her finger in it, on it, up it, whatever.
Up it is true. Yeah. Up it is so true, and we could say a lot more, huh?
Yeah.
Anyway, you gotta wonder too what some of these very wealthy companies are hearing in the background. There's background noise.
Right.
There's leaks coming from the government to some of these big companies. And with 2 weeks, theoretically, if things go the way they're planned, we have 2 more weeks. Okay. 15 days-ish. However, we've seen some big companies do some things that make us believe that this is going to last 2 weeks, maybe 4 weeks longer.
Right.
Number one is probably our most major employer in this tri-county region is the plants, and that's Bass Pro. Now, he's got all kinds of money. However, he laid off 30% of his hourly wage earners, and he asked his management to take a 20% pay cut.
Oh.
Now, if it was just going to be 2 more weeks in his mind, I don't think there's any way he'd do this. I was concerned about this because he did this last Friday.
Yes, Friday.
Probably right after the stock market closed, which is when they love to do those things, even though his companies are not in the stock market. But Disney is in the stock market. They just cut 45% of their force across the board. Now, that makes me think they're not planning on at least going back for the season.
Right.
You know, there's talk of, will we play the NFL this year?
Wow.
I mean, that doesn't even start till mid-August.
I mean, we were supposed to be coming into playoffs for the NHL now, and the last, I forget how many, 12 games or whatever, they don't know if they're going to play them. They don't know if we're even going to have a Stanley Cup season or just extend next year. Nobody knows yet.
Same thing with the NBA.
Yeah.
They're talking about that the same way, as long with Major League Baseball. They're trying to figure out how they can start, or even if they can start, or how, if they start, how are they going to play the games? Do you play them with no people there? Do you play them in Arizona and Florida?
Do you sell every third seat? Yeah.
I mean, or can you afford to do that? Can you afford to do it without the fans there?
No, they can't.
You know, I don't think they can. I just don't think that. I think the one thing I have learned through this is how these places are cash poor. Now, they may have some assets, but they don't have, like the airlines, in less than 2 weeks, we're running out of cash.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? You don't have 2 weeks worth of cash when they tell families you better have 3 months worth.
The airlines here have laid off massive amounts of employees. Massive amounts.
And
thousands.
they parked planes that they said that will never fly again. And here's what the airlines believes, that we're going to quit flying, basically. We have had to learn how to use Skype. We've had to learn how to use FaceTime. We've learned how to do business without the airlines through this. And they don't think we're going to go back. This is the airlines talking.
Great.
And then they think there's going to be this psychological fear of flying for a while.
Yeah, could be. I
Maybe
hope not.
forever, but you gotta wonder. And I think as we talk about how much longer, we gotta also remember that, for example, New York was infested 2 weeks before we had our first case.
Right.
Okay, so as it rolls across the country, we're not going to be past our peaks at the same time.
Yeah, it's definitely regional. I'm noticing that.
I think you guys, it sounds like you guys in your particular area up there, I'm not talking about all of Canada, but it sounds like you guys were lighter.
Yeah.
On the island? Does it seem
especially
like that?
The island. Especially the island. There hasn't been any new cases on the island for, I don't know, 4 or 5 days probably. However, in Vancouver, I think they said they added 49 cases throughout the province. So,
wow.
It's still happening there. Not quite the population of New York, but I mean, we're talking millions of people in close proximity. So that's where the
you guys
real
have done a better job, and you have to wonder: is it temperature? We keep thinking it's going to go dormant in the heat, although I don't know. It may get worse than the heat. I don't know. It seems like the colder it is, the less cases. Well, except for Michigan. Don't
forget, the further north you go, the less population you do have.
That's true. Now, we keep talking about New York has hit its peak, and instead of getting 20,000, 10,000 new cases a day, Andrew Cuomo said, listen, we're still getting 6,000 new cases a day.
Wow.
Just in Manhattan. So the curve going down is far from a place where everybody can go back to work.
Right.
And I was a little shocked by those numbers myself today.
Well, testing has been an issue in Canada. We've only been using the long test, and that could take 5 to 7 days to get your test results. And in most cases, the people are dead already by the time the test results come back.
Yeah.
So
and then you go, well, yeah, they probably had it.
Yeah, the rapid test that has been made for COVID actually is a Canadian company that has a lab in China, and they've been kicking out 1 million. It takes like 3 minutes or something. It's a 3-minute test. It's a rapid test. So that was just approved in Canada. I think today or possibly yesterday they approved that. So at least we've got the rapid test on the way. But you guys in Europe have been using it all along.
Well, he just approved a very rapid test last week.
Yeah.
At the end of last week. He said for us to go back to work, Trump said that we need to be able to do a rapid test 750,000 a day.
Yeah, right.
In the United States, and they said they're not producing near enough for that to happen quite yet.
Right.
And that brings us to this next question. Exactly what are we learning? Now that it's been in the United States, we've had a lot of cases, we're learning new information. And one of it is we're learning that genetics play a big role. Now, exactly what, we're not sure. But some people just don't seem to get it.
Yeah, there's people at risk here too, especially older people and people with asthma or any kind of disease, anything like
diabetes.
Yeah, diabetes is a big one. Overweight, and it seems to hit a lot of big men. Yes, men. It is.
Men are getting it at an alarmingly much higher rate than women. Men are dying more from it.
Yeah,
which makes sense. So. There are also families that are getting it and dying. There's this family in Jersey where they weren't that old. 4 people are dead. 2 are in intensive care.
Wow.
I think they're going to study that a lot. They also say African Americans are getting it at a much higher rate than white Americans.
Right.
And they're dying much more. Now, they did say that African Americans do have a higher rate of diabetes, and that's problematic for this disease. I really didn't know that African Americans had more diabetes. So that's new. Now, as they talk about going back to work, they're talking about health passes, where you'll get a health pass on your phone to go back to work, where you've had a genetics test, which tests your IgE response, your immunity, and whether you've had it or not, if you have an immune response. So the very first people that will be able to go back to work are people that will show that they can't get it again.
Right, which is basically what they have going on in China, where if you're going through certain streets or areas or even buildings, you got to scan a QR code with your phone so you can be tracked.
Exactly, and that's a problem, because what is the new normal?
Well, yeah, today, actually, this last few days, I've been hearing about Google and Apple putting together this app that's going to track you through basically the GPS in your phone.
Right, which Israel's been doing that. And not all about Israel, but
they've been doing it all along. They've been doing it all along anyways.
And I keep telling people, we do not have any sense of privacy anymore.
No.
I mean, you've got your car GPS, you've got your phone, you've got your fitness trackers, you've got cameras on every corner. Nothing is sacred. Everything's tracked. Everything's in the cloud. I mean, every phone call you make. But now they're going to step that up and use it for tracking your behavior as it pertains to COVID-19.
There was a television show. We were talking about this. Actually, I really liked the show, Person of Interest. That was about maybe, it's probably been off the air 5-6 years.
Yeah.
We probably started, say, 10 years ago, where they had this giant computer then, and it could, it picked up people's faces off all, cameras and whatever, and
it integrated all these things.
Yes, and then it went to a giant computer, and it really, you could change history because certain events were going to happen because of this certain person or whatever. And you think that would, when, 10 years ago, that sounded like a bunch of hooey.
Right.
Well, not now.
No, and it was going on then. Just for a while, I think we just didn't know about it.
Well, now we have a vaccine by Bill Gates. I mean, I did a lot of looking into Bill Gates and his speaking over the last 9 years with TED Talks and being interviewed. And this is Bill Gates' logic. This is an actual quote. If we increase the quality of healthcare and vaccines, making them more readily available to the poorer class, we will reduce world population.
Yeah.
With better healthcare and vaccines, we reduce the world population. So the guy against world overpopulation is all of a sudden trying to save the world population.
Yeah, I don't know.
He fishy about
that? Well, he also left his company last week as CEO, right?
Right. Well,
last week he left. He basically, he had stepped away from it, but he basically cut all the remaining ties he had with Microsoft.
Well, I think it's probably to save Microsoft's stock because the average person right now has got a lot of time to dig a little deeper in the news. Yeah. And a lot of people out, especially with his latest proposal, ID2020, which is inserting a chip inside everybody, and you will be tracked. Your health, everything, your blood pressure, everything about your health, all that information will be sent back to them.
And I can tell right now, Christians and evangelicals will freak out because that will be the mark of 666 to them, the devil.
Well, Trudeau spoke the other day, and he says as soon as we have a vaccine, we can end this thing. And if he figures that we're all going to get vaccinated by Bill Gates, he's got another thing coming. This is going to last a lot longer.
Not happen.
Yeah. So I don't know. I can see that move, Bill Gates moving away from Microsoft as a way of, things go south where it's not going to hurt Microsoft. So,
exactly.
Just a call.
Good point.
That man is evil.
Yeah, he is. I don't know.
He's no friend of mankind.
Yeah. No. Well, and that brings us to the new normal. You were talking about restaurants will only be allowed to use half of their seating.
Yeah.
Because we will still have to be social distancing. Face masks, you're going to go to work with face masks on. They're going to make you change out your air exchangers and make sure that they filter the air. So if your business wants to open, you're going to have to reach a standard. Touching, shaking hands. No whispering. You're not going to be able to get that close to some whisper to talk.
Yeah.
And what about, people? How are people going to date and stuff?
I was
thinking that. Meet somebody. Yeah. It's really crazy to think about. When will movie theaters ever be able to open again? Or, like you say, will you just sell every third or fourth seat?
Well, I guess now a one night stand is basically 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. You have to go into quarantine first.
Yeah. Before you go in, to that date, you better be prepared to spend 2 weeks there, I guess. I don't know.
But we can't go without saying that Biden and now the presumptive nominee, Bernie Sanders, has now dropped out and has, in fact, endorsed Biden. Will the virus tie up the win for Trump or, make Biden new president?
Well,
wow.
What gave out first in the last month? Toilet paper or was it Bernie?
Yeah.
I'm not sure which. I'm not sure.
Bernie.
Yeah, I'm very, very surprised by that because, through this and up in Canada, Biden and Pelosi have been non-existent. they're not even really mentioned in the news up here. So I don't know who this is hurting more. I would say probably the Democrats. What do you guys think?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I think it's
Trump,
a nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
Trump
pulls a win out of this.
And if this was, some sort of bio-warfare, I think it's backfired because this is going to put a serious wrench in the chain of globalization.
You're exactly right.
Yes.
Yes.
It's killed.
Well, we have to agree there then.
Yep, and we don't always agree about life's a journey, is it ever? And we're all in it together, but apart. So
Yes.
Godspeed, Connor. Be to all of our friends out there.
Godspeed, everyone, and thanks for listening.
You bet.